Hello, Sunita. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Sharmila.
Hey, thank you so much for participating in this podcast series, which is a She Leads, She Inspires Women's Day special series. First of all, thank you so much for your time. Viewers, Sunita Mohanty, she is having almost 24 plus years of experience in sales and business development. And today we are going to have a chit chat, or I can say, a very normal talk, and we are going to just get in like all her experiences. We are going to talk about those things today. Sunita, for you, we are going to start with a rapid fire. Are you excited?
Yes, looking forward to sharing and learning from you as well, Sharmila. So while I'm here to share my experience, I hope it's sort of, I would say, it's a two-way traffic. So I also hope to get something out of it.
Great, Sunita. So, yes, let's get into it. The first question is what's more unpredictable, Bangalore traffic or corporate meetings?
Undoubtedly, Bangalore traffic, hands down.
Yes, okay. I thought it would be this the answer. So, what do you prefer most? Tea, coffee, or let's get this work done first?
I think either tea or coffee is required before getting work done because if you don't get the right stimulus and fuel, you can't do anything.
Yes, rightly said, rightly said. And if it comes to a meeting, you would prefer online or in-person meeting?
I think there is a place and a time for everything, right? While online meetings are definitely a lot more convenient, but
Hmm.
there are some type of meetings where I think in person is really important, especially when you're
Yes.
trying to gauge somebody's body language. So there are different type. There are specific type of meetings where I think an online doesn't serve the purpose.
And importantly, when you wanted to build a rapport, right?
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
believe like in-person meeting, it's going to be it's a great thing, right?
it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, obviously. So if you wanted to, I can say, I can just frame it in this way. If you could have had a dinner with any leader, it can be a dead or alive, who would it be?
Good one. I think if I were to choose a leader, I
Yeah.
would probably choose Coco Chanel. Okay. The
Okay.
reason I'm saying Coco Chanel is because I think she was a pioneer when it came to the fashion industry. And
Hmm.
if you even
Yeah.
look up, I think she was a major icon for women empowerment. And she was one of those women who really spoke her mind. Okay. She was very, very avant garde, if I could say so. And probably she's somebody that I'd, want to meet over a meal.
Great. Great. So this is really a funny question. So if LinkedIn was a person, what advice you would want to give it?
If LinkedIn was a person, then I would say that you probably need to get more time in the sun, go more on holidays.
Okay. Okay, that's really great. So coming back to this a little bit of as you are a leader for almost so many years, so one book that you wanted to recommend for every aspiring leader out there.
Actually, there are a number of books, but I think one of the leaders' books
Mm.
that I found very relatable, and I think his story is very inspiring. Is one of the greatest tech leaders today. That's Satya Nadella.
Great. Yeah.
And I think his Hit Refresh book is very, very, very inspiring. And I'm not saying it because I used to work with Microsoft at one point of time, but
Yeah.
that was one of the books which I sort of stayed with me, and
Okay.
that's one book I would recommend.
Great. So what was the most rewarding moment in your entire journey? Any moment that you are getting it right now, so you can share with the viewers here.
So, Sharmila, I mean, I think there have been various moments
Yeah.
in my career where there have been those wow moments, if I could say so, right? But if I don't want to pick on a specific moment, and what I would want to say is that at the every time I have gotten into any role that I take up or whatever I take up, the one thing that I always try and do is to create a legacy, right? You
Got
want
it.
to create an impact,
Yeah.
and so every time I take up a role, I always ask myself before taking up each role that how do I want to be remembered, right? And then you go out and take that big bet or create an impact. So I think it varies, and those big wow moments have varied, have been very different wow moments through various phases of my career. But
Yeah,
this is what I'd say.
understandable. Yeah, understandable. But I think one thing that the everyone can learn from here is that whatever you do, you give your 100%, and you are trying to create a legacy on that, right? So
Yeah,
that is the one
and
key takeaway.
the
Yeah,
one thing that I always tell my team is that whatever you do,
yeah,
you must leave shoes too big for the next person to fill.
True, true. Rightly said, Sunita. Can't agree with you more actually.
Right.
So this is again a funny question. One tech buzzword you wish would disappear forever. You don't want to hear that again.
I think right now there is an overdose of AI. So it is AI bots, AI, agentic AI,
Yeah.
everything is AI. So I think it's a
Okay.
little overpowering at this point in time. So probably
Okay.
that's the word of the day.
Okay, got it. So since you started career in the, I think it's in the, I mean, late 90s. I think the same thing happened with the dot com, right? When website came into picture. Do you remember any kind of
So
instance like?
yeah, so 2000 is when I actually joined the workforce,
Yeah. Okay.
and I think the dot com boom was just about happening then. So I think that was when the Wipros and the Infosys and all of them were really coming into their own, and they were becoming household names because
Mm,
that was when that happened. So that's what I recall, and I remember I mean that was my first job, and I
yeah.
incidentally my first job was with Wipro as well.
Okay.
So
Great.
you know, so it was, I think, it was a time when tech was getting to be a very working in tech was getting to be a very fashionable and
Mm,
a very glamorous job,
yeah.
right? I mean,
Yes.
so in the early 2000s, being in tech is like, wow, you're in technology.
Yes, obviously it's a wow moment, right? Like that
Yeah,
time, so I'm basically from Salem, okay? So I still remember I was I can say like I was like in class, I mean in the school actually. So if someone says I'm working in Wipro Infosys, people used to see them like, wow, like you are in IT. So I mean I still remember those days. I think for you, I think it must have been very great moment, right? Like you
great.
started career there.
Yep.
Okay, okay, great. And okay, what is the best career advice you have ever received till now?
The best career advice I have ever received, and this is something that I'm guilty of, is the fact that I have had opportunities where I have been given or presented opportunities where I have had. I remember a boss who came and told me that, hey, you can do this job, apply and take this on, right? And he was nudging me on to take on a much larger role, and I was not confident of doing that role, right? And
Okay,
so I was like. Should I? And ultimately, I mean, I slept over it, I thought over it, and I didn't think that I was ready, right? So I didn't apply for that role. And
yeah,
I remember my boss at that point of time telling me that you are underestimating
yeah.
yourself, right? And today, when I look back, I think that was very, very true, because I ended up doing that role maybe 2 years later or 3 years later, and I was like, what's the big deal? Why did I not say yes or go after it at that point in time, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a lesson learned for me. And I think that a lot of us women are guilty of that. The fact that we underestimate ourselves,
A
and
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
and unless we are 80 or 90% sure that we can do it, we will not put our hands up, to take on more.
Actually, we are more perfectionist by the genetics
Correct.
itself, right? Like
Yeah.
women
So
are like that.
essentially, yeah. So essentially, if you think that you're going to fail, you will not take it on, right? So you want to be assured of some degree of success, and so that is where I think that self confidence, that self belief, is something that we as women need to work on a lot more, in my view.
Yeah, rightly said, Sunita. So, final question in rapid fire: leadership in one word.
Integrity.
Great, actually, great. So thank you. So this is a rapid fire. Now let's get into your, about your journey, because it's like 25 years almost. It's not easy, and you have been working with various MNCs throughout your journeys, like Wipro, Oracle, Microsoft, and SAP. So a lot of MNCs, right? So I think you have to start with your incredible journey. So it's been like almost 25 years. You started your career, and can you please take us to some of the key milestone, our experiences and turning points, so everyone can learn from it, Sunita.
So I think, like I said, like I told you, like I mentioned, Sharmila, I think milestones. When I started my career, I actually got a pre-placement offer from MBA when I was doing my MBA at Wipro, and I'm actually a marketing and sales graduate, right? I'm a sales and marketing
Yeah,
graduate, and it just so happened that I got recruited by a tech firm, right? So
yeah,
technology was not my choice of industry. I actually wanted to do more of FMCG, because sales and marketing was what I had actually sort of majored in.
okay,
And so it just happened. It was just, I would say, serendipity that I got into technology, and then being based in Bangalore, and this being the tech capital, that was when really the tech bubble that Bangalore was really blossomed during that early 2000s. And
yeah,
so there's never been a dearth of opportunities. So it was one tech company after the other, and starting off from sales. I think I've had the experience of working with very large multinational companies like an Oracle
Mm.
or a Microsoft or an SAP, which are very very strong technology companies, leaders in their own spaces, and that's a very different kind of an experience versus working also with companies which are SIs like a Wipro or a
Yeah.
Capgemini. And I think for me, probably one of the most defining experiences that I had was with Capgemini, because when I joined them, they were actually just setting up their India business. So I was probably one of the first few salespeople they hired for setting up the
Oh,
India
that's
business.
amazing. Actually,
Yeah.
amazing to know. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
even though Capgemini is a very large, multinational, but that was their, setting up their business in India, right? So it was literally like a startup, starting the business from zero, acquiring the first
Yeah.
client, then scaling the business, and we grew at a CAGR of almost 35%, and it was very very rapid growth. I think that was probably one of the most exciting and the most, one of those experiences where you learn a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
growing a business from start, and really scaling it up to such a large business size was an amazing experience. I think that's something that
So
has.
I think when you're starting from a scratch, a small success also matters a lot, and you cherish it a lot, and that's something it will be reminded forever, right? I think that's something I think I can. I mean, I can really feel it because as an entrepreneur, I also can really relate it a lot when you say that the journey with the Capgemini. It's a great thing, Smita.
Yeah.
So
So I think
great.
that so I think it's been all those varied experiences, that, if I look back on, I think, have really helped shape me as a person today, right? So yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's true. Like, and also, I mean, next thing is that since you have been working with a lot of MNCs, I wanted to know: have you ever faced gender bias in your career? Kind of tricky.
Good
Yeah.
question. And see, I would say that while gender bias has evolved over time undoubtedly, okay,
Okay.
and I'll share one experience which I don't
Yeah,
think
we are looking forward.
today would be acceptable at all. Okay, but I was getting interviewed, for a job,
Okay.
at a large MNC. I'm not taking names, but I was
I
getting
mean,
interviewed by
it's
a
fine.
job for a job, and I was actually asked in that interview, and I had just gotten married. I think I was 2 years. I think I just, 2 years that I got married or whatever, and I was actually asked, "Are you planning to have or start a family soon?"
Okay.
Okay, and I was a little taken aback, and I was like, "Why am I being asked such a question?" Right?
Yeah.
So the obviously the where this was coming, and obviously the person asking the question, the interviewer was a male, right? I don't think a female would have ever asked a question like that. But if I look back,
Hmm.
in today's day and age, if nobody would dare ask a question like that in an interview, right? It is absolutely not acceptable to be asked a question like that. But see, just 20 years back, you were actually asked questions like that in an interview. I think that a lot of that, has evolved, and the gender equality, there's a lot that different corporates are doing around
Yeah.
diversity,
Obviously, yes. Yeah.
right? So, and corporates are doing a lot around creating an equal playing field. um, I think there are still, I would say, overall, I think the system is still not acceptable of women in power. Okay, while I think across the board, all corporates, we are all talking about gender inclusion, diversity, all of that. But I think there is still a glass ceiling when it comes to women in leadership roles, right?
True.
And whether we like it or not, I think the overall system needs to change to be a lot more accepting of women in power. There are biases and perceptions and double standards or whatever that still exist, and if
Yeah,
I
that still exists.
that
Yes.
yeah, that still exists. So for example, men are viewed as assertive, but women are viewed as aggressive. Okay, men are seen as leaders, but women are seen as bossy. Okay, so
Bossy. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree with this word. Like, when we wanted to get the task done, right, it becomes like a bossy thing, right? But yes, I agree really with this actually, right?
Right. So I think, so there's still a lot of work to be done in my view.
And I feel like, I mean, comparatively, IT have a lot of women leaders actually, but when you take in other segments, it's very less.
Yeah.
Recently I was reading an article, and then I mean, it's very very less, and especially in the sectors like manufacturing. I mean, I can see very few, like not much.
No, but if you look at statistics, I think it's barely 10% of leaders who are actually women,
Yeah.
right? So that's an extremely low number, considering that we are 50% of the population.
Yes, and also we are multitaskers, right? I mean, we do a lot of multitasking. I think, yeah, maybe it will change. Now, I think we are seeing a lot of changes happening. I think maybe in next 10 years, the numbers might become better.
it has to change. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope for the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
so sure. What are the leadership qualities do you believe are essential for women to lead?
So, so for one, of course, I think women, as women, we are known to have a softer side, right? So,
Yeah,
empathy, leading with empathy is something that as women, I think we have a softer side to us. So, being empathetic, but at the same time, while we are being supportive and empathetic, we also need to balance that out, right? So that balancing empathy is important. Two, it's about taking people along. So whatever job you do, it's very important to ensure that you take your teams along, you take people along, you build trust, you build relationships, because you're working with people at the end of the day. So that's, I think, the people management aspect is very, very crucial. And I think the
so
third thing that I
sorry to interrupt. So when you say like you are balancing empathy and also an authority as a leader, so
Hmm.
any example you wanted to call it out, like any instances that you get?
So I think that look, and I'll give you some examples, right? In
Yeah.
terms of how do you balance empathy
Yes.
along with, let's say, being decisive or being authoritative as a leader, right? So for
Mm.
one, while you need to understand what are people's, let's say, specific challenges, or what are their shortcomings, but be very clear with your expectations as far as people are concerned, right? As far as your teams are concerned or your extended teams are concerned, be very clear about, set clear expectations, hold people accountable, right?
Affordable. Yeah.
Yeah, so hold them accountable and be very clear in terms of what is expected of them. Two,
Exactly.
I talked about trust, right? So that whole trust and empowerment is a key thing, right? Because if you trust them, you are empowering them to take certain decisions, right, and
There
do
you go.
certain things, right? As
Yeah.
long as they know that what is the limits to which they are empowered, and what kind of decision making that they can take in. I think so. That is one thing. The other is that you as a leader, you need to know when you should step in, right? So stepping in at the right time to provide the right direction, manage conflicts, ensuring that the team stays on track. So I think those are the things that one needs to do, right? So there is the balancing act that you need to do. There is a
Yep.
level of like you say, you provide a certain level of independence, but you also need to know what are the limits of that independence.
Getting it. Getting it. I think that's true. Like I think accountability is very very important, and you're giving them a freedom of what they wanted to do, right? And they
Correct.
know what exactly their deliverables and outcomes. So accordingly, like you can obviously, like I think without freedom, I don't think so you can get a best from anyone, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nobody would want to have a boss breathing down your neck. What did you eat for lunch today? What did you do? Who did you
Yeah,
speak
true.
to? How many calls did you make? So I think that level of trust is very, very important.
That's really true. So I just wanted to understand one more thing. So being lot of roles, right, like in your career, so how you are managing the work life balance? Like work life balance is again in one area for most of the women, it's very very difficult, and especially after they are getting married, and also after they are getting kids and all those things. So that is something, and you can say it's always debatable. So how you have addressed throughout these years? I think you're muted, Sunita. I couldn't hear you. Sunita, I
No,
couldn't hear
so
you.
you're
Yeah.
right, right. So I think balance. Okay, better
Yes,
now?
yes. Go ahead.
I'm audible
Please go
now?
ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that balancing and multitasking, comes naturally to women, right? So inherently we are better at integrating work and personal responsibilities. See, even with me, right? I mean, we all go through cycles in our life where you start a family.
Yeah.
You then have to figure out how do you manage your personal life and your professional lives, right? And I think that is where you have to make choices. Choices
Okay.
are important, right?
Okay.
For example, with me, I have a daughter.
Okay.
When we decided to have a child, obviously in my mind it was like, what do I how do I balance work and how do I balance family, right? So the choice as a young mother then is that, should I focus on my child? Should I put my career on the back seat? What do I want to do, right? So those are choices that one needs to make, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to be a good mother. You also don't want to, you don't want to neglect your child, but you don't, at the same time, you also have your own passion, your independence, you want to do something. So I think these are choices that you have to make in your life, right? At some point, for some people, the choice is, I want to focus on my family, and you decide to
Yeah.
take a career backseat, right? And the good thing is, today there are corporates that are providing, an
Yes.
opportunity for people to come back to the work life,
Yes. Yeah.
working force, which is great, right? But it's important to make those choices. So if you make a choice saying that, hey, I want to prioritize this, then there are certain sacrifices you got to make as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that you've got to live with, and you've got to be very clear in your mind that I am choosing to do this and I'm not choosing to do that. So that's I think where the work life, the personal and work life balancing comes in. Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah, I
you
mean,
got
that's
to.
I think it's a very strong word, choices, right? Rightly said. I think it depends upon each and everyone what choice they have to make. And as you said, currently, I mean, women have a flexibility of, I mean, because like every lot of companies are supporting women to come back and work, right? I think with this, I think more women can really make their choices better. I
Correct.
believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, like, I mean, being in the corporate, so what changes you hope to see in the corporate leadership in the next decade?
Corporate leadership. Okay.
Yes.
So, when it comes to leadership, I would say a few things. One is, of course, we've been talking about the whole diversity, inclusion, and I think as far as corporate leadership is concerned, not just talking about D&I because it is the right thing to say or do, but to really, uh, ensure that you are selecting or providing a platform for the right skill sets, capability, competency, right? And not having biases or perceptions really, drive decisions around whether who's the best candidate for the best job, right? So I think that is one thing for sure. The second thing that I want to call out is that, look, the need of the hour today is really about more ethical and responsible leadership. And the reason I'm saying this is because while profitability, obviously is a goal of most corporates, right? But profitability goals have to be balanced with more and more social and environmental responsibilities, because we are seeing this all around us. Global warming, planet's resources are depleting much faster than it is able to replenish itself. And so the whole, importance of minimizing waste, maximizing usage, recycling, usage of these renewable energies, all of that is becoming very, very important. And what that means for corporates, of course, is more responsibility in terms of carbon emission reporting, ESG reporting. How are you making your businesses more sustainable? Really putting not just social but corporate responsibility really up there as one of your key agendas, besides just being a profitable business and growth oriented business. So to me, I think it's very, very important to have social and sustainability reporting as integral to every organization. So India has introduced the BRSR reporting in, which means that all the top 1,000 companies have to have a sustainability reporting as part of the financial reporting. Although I don't know how seriously it's being taken, but it's a good step, right? Uh,
Basic, yeah. First step,
so
yeah.
to me, I think this whole environmental consciousness and environmental responsibility, along with social responsibility, I think has to take a lot more prominence with corporate leadership.
Great. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Sunita. So, I mean, so we are celebrating a Women's Day today, right? So, what do you wanted to say to the women out there, our viewers? What is something you wanted to share with them? So, you can go ahead, Sunita. Yeah.
Okay, so to all the women out there, I think two messages. One is
Okay.
that, firstly, for all the women who want to break barriers and who want to really fly, get their wings and fly high. So for one, of course, get out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
You have to put yourself, you have to challenge yourself. You have to think out of the box, right? You will not know everything from day one. So take the help. Don't hesitate to take help when you need it. Build a strong network of mentors, advisors, entrepreneurs, etc. Right? I mean, it's very important that you build a support system. You have a support system that helps you. Right? Believe
Right.
in yourself. You will not be perfect from day one, and
True.
you will not have all the answers from day one, and you will refine it as you keep going. So believe
Yeah.
in yourself and believe in your ideas, skills, and what you bring to the table. My second call out is for all the women leaders who've achieved a certain level of success, right? And my call out really is that, as women, we really need to be the wing beneath each other's, be the wings for each other and lift each other up, because, we have to break that glass ceiling together, and we can only do it together, right? I mean, as women leaders, the onus is on us to groom and mentor other aspiring women by giving them a helping hand. We should provide those stepping stones for each other, rather than kick the ladder once you reach the top, right? So that's what I would want to say. But firstly, to all the aspiring women out there, and to the women leaders as well.
Yeah. Yes, Sunita. So, I mean, it's really true. So, they have to build their support system. Support system is going to help them a lot, as you rightly said. I think, this half an hour is really exciting. And thank you so much for taking your time, and once again, and sharing your thoughts and your experiences to all the women's out there, Sunita. So thank you so much once again for being part of this podcast series, and I wish you all success for your future endeavors, Sunita. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Sharmila. Thank you for having me, and wishing all the women who are listening in a very, very happy Women's Day, and more power to you.
Thank you. Thank you. More power to us. Yes. Thank you.